I'll scream. I'll scratch your face.
This face?
Well, that was unexpected and awesome. For me, The Black Phone kind of came out of nowhere. I guess in horror movie circles it had been hyped up for a little while now, but I only heard about it shortly before it came out. I've been a fan of Ethan Hawke since Training Day, and I grew up on horror but lost touch with the genre over the past decade, mostly due to a lack of interest in the modern approach studios have taken, leaning in on jump scares and unoriginal ideas. And yeah, story of a mass killer isn't exactly breaking ground, but the manner in which it's approached in The Black Phone sure as fuck is. Based on a short story by author Joe Hill, The Black Phone takes place in 1978 and follows a young boy named Finney Blake who's kidnapped by a child abductor known as the Grabber, played by Ethan Hawke. Finney's sister Gwen searches for him while his fate might actually be tied to a disconnected black phone on the wall of the basement room he's trapped in. The movie does exactly what horror films should do. It keeps you tense and your mind racing trying to figure out what's going to happen next. It's effective at keeping you glued to your seat. I absolutely did not want to get up in case I'd missed something. A bathroom break was out of the question no matter how many sugary sodas I dumped into my body at the theater. The moments of tension are palpable. There's one scene in particular in this film that was so intense I realized I'd been clenching my jaw the entire time, something my dentist probably appreciates. As mentioned, most modern horror movies rely on cheap jump scares, but any jumps here are directly related to the plot. They're earned, they have a purpose, and that's appreciated. There's an intense sense of dread from the moment the opening scene concludes, aided by fantastic cinematography by Brett Jakowitz, who also did the Scream soft reboot this year. He has a clear sense of style that both of his films have, but with Scream taking place in the modern day and Black Phone taking place in the 70s, it's also clear he has a range in color palettes and lighting because both of those films look like their eras. Scott Derrickson directs, and his silky smooth camera work is a breath of fresh air from the shaky cam bullshit I've seen in a lot of tense scenes in modern times. He directed the original Doctor Strange, and with its sequel Multiverse of Madness supposedly an MCU horror film, The Black Phone makes me wonder how much better that movie would have been if he was at the helm. The movie doesn't overdo it on gore or really show much blood at all for that matter. It's mostly left up to the audience's imagination, and relying on that requires a confident director and editor who knows when to cut away, what to show and what not to show, and this movie sure as shit has both of those. Of all the things to appreciate about The Black Phone, I think what I actually liked most was how uncompromising it is when it came to showing the reality of life for these kids. The moments between characters feel legitimate and era appropriate. The dialogue feels like things people would actually say. Not that I like certain language or certain vulgarities, but the dialogue feels authentic and doesn't have modern morals retroactively plugged into a movie taking place in the 70s. People are awful, they say horrible things to each other that wouldn't fly today. And I appreciate that Derrickson decided to go the authentic route instead of pretending like 1978 was 2022. This is embodied best by Finney and Gwen's father, who's a complete bastard piece of shit that Derrickson somehow makes into a fully formed three-dimensional character, despite how horrible he is. You hate him, but also pity him, and that's the point. Ethan Hawke gives a fantastic performance as the Grabber, a character that feels original, terrifying, and instantly iconic. I'm not sure where in particular he got his inspiration for his performance from, but the best way I could describe it is if Johnny Depp's Willy Wonka realized his full potential and decided to kill those fucking kids in the chocolate factory.
I love your chocolate.
I can see that.
Apparently he said before that he didn't want to play villains, but thank God that's changed because his role in this is perfection. He mostly stays hidden behind a mask, so he uses his body language, head tilts, mannerisms, and speech to give a masterfully creepy performance that's sure to be remembered. The masks he wears throughout the movie change depending on his attitude and mood, and the film thankfully never tries to explain where he comes from, tries to dive into his past, or tell you why he wears the mask. There's no hand-holding like most modern movies do, and the film is all the better, and the character all the creepier for it. Most of the cast consists of kids in their teens and tweens, and they do fine in their roles. They aren't all the best in the business, and that's totally okay. Not every child cast can be as strong as Stranger Things. There is a standout though in Madeline McGraw who plays Gwen Blake. Besides Ethan Hawke, she's probably the best actor in the entire film. The script asks a lot from her, from executing well-timed humor to showcasing raw emotion, and I won't be surprised if she goes on to do some great things. The Black Phone is easily the best horror movie of the past year and one of the best movies of 2022 overall. We're halfway through the year, and judging by what's coming out in the second half, this is going to end up on people's top 10 lists. It's an intelligent horror film that has genuine moments of tension, a simple but clever plot that could have fallen into cliche silliness if not for a director who knows what the fuck he wants, and an iconic performance by a modern legend in Ethan Hawke. In conclusion, go see this fucker. You won't be disappointed. GG's only.